Struggling in your relationship with money? What's up? Michael here. In this video, 7 nuggets to improve your relationship with money. But why listen to me? Well, as a macroeconomist studying, teaching, and researching about money and the monetary system, having spent time myself at the Federal Reserve and over in Europe, it really wasn't until I took money seriously and worked on it that my relationship with money dramatically improved. And it wasn't long before I crossed the 10,000, the 100,000, the 1 million, and even more by just having a good long initial therapy session. If I'm honest, probably a few sessions. So here are 7 golden tips if you want to get better and really the most in developing your mindset to understand, to attract, to retain, and to grow your money. So without further ado, think about what money means to you. Maybe you look at this $1 note right here. How do you feel about this $1 note? Well, maybe in this inflationary environment, it doesn't really mean that much. You know, back in the day, you could get a few sweets for it, you know, penny sweets, things like that. So something more realistic today is maybe like the $5 note. Now we're talking, we could go to Starbucks, maybe get a coffee, you know, maybe it could give you something else. What does it make you feel? Maybe $10 note. So what does this $10 note mean to you? Okay, so this actually could be something more important, like maybe parking. Maybe it's, again, this is just a game that I play with my students. It's also something I saw someone else doing. So again, this $10 note may be a bit more meaningful to you, okay? Because you could get maybe a cheap meal in a fast food restaurant now. This is something you could actually use. Maybe even a cinema ticket, maybe not at the highest price ticket, but you could get something out of this that's a bit more enjoyable now. Because with the other stuff now, you probably need extra given the inflationary environment that we're in. Okay, so I don't have a 20, but I do have a 50. Now, how does this make you feel? What do you think about it? Right? It would kind of suck if you lost this on a night out, right? This could be a night out, it could be a taxi, it could be maybe a meal at a proper restaurant, you know, if you're not going too wild with the Dom Perignon. But this is, again, something that, you know, you would probably be annoyed if you lost that on a night out. So if I could take maybe just a few of these, right, about $500 here, looking at these now, okay, we could think about $500 being something like maybe a TV, right? This would really be annoying if you lost it. It could be some other electronic appliance, could be a game console, you name it, right? Something that you really are looking forward to buying, maybe a Christmas present or something like that. So again, how does it make you feel, right? How does this money make you feel? It could be that it's someone's monthly or even 2 monthly paycheck, depending on where you are, what you're living, what you're making, right? So again, I could take any amount of money here, right, and put it down, say, look, what does this make you, how does this make you feel? This individual $1 bill here with George Washington on the front. What does this $1 note think or feel about you? Well, it's just a note, right? It's a little bit like let's say a high school crush that you never spoke to, right? It doesn't even know you exist probably, right? So it doesn't think, it's just a note. And so that's partly the first lesson, right? Is try to become unemotional towards money. Because at the end of the day, if you become too emotional towards it, you may not make the right decisions. This is one of the biases that we have, human biases, right? That it's just something that, you know, you really need to understand the emotional argument. So once we disabuse ourselves of the emotional part, that really does help us quite a bit. But the next thing to do is to learn more about money. Like, what is money? At the end of the day, all these dollars or $50, etc., all they're doing is they're facilitating us in making transactions. Look, if I want to buy this jacket and I meet someone, well, they're going to have something like a jacket for me to make a transaction with them. But in return, they might want something, and it could be that they want lessons in French, which I can't teach them. So they have a jacket, but what they want is French lessons, and we say, well, we cannot barter because I can't teach you. I'm going to have to look around, a little bit like the dating market. Like, it's going to take a long time before there's a mutual attraction in that regard, right? So it could be that they want lessons in economics. Then great, I can teach them lessons in economics in exchange for that jacket. But on the other side of the coin, I could give them, maybe it's a cheap jacket, I give them $50 and they get 1 lesson in economics, or more expensive jacket, I give them $500 and as a result, they get a few weeks of tuitions in economics and learn something more about it. Or even, let's say, in French, because I can't teach them French. So I give them the $500, they give me the jacket, and they go off with the $500 and find someone else. So it makes it a little easier. That's what money is doing. It's facilitating exchange. It's really just the value of that. So it also is a unit of account. Like the difference between, let's say, a $1, a $10, a $50 is really, well, it's like height or weight. Like what is the value of this? Like how do we measure the unit of account? So it could be that, let's say this glass of water here, you might pay a few dollars for if it's bottled water, but let's say the studio here, you'd pay quite a bit more, rent, etc., like a car, a house. So we're trying to look at the value of the thing in terms of the market value, not the intrinsic value, but the market value. So how much people as humans place on something. So it could be, again, the more that it's in demand, the higher it is. So the unit of account reflects that. The stronger, if it was, let's say, weightlifting, right? This $10 note is still worth $10 in today's purchasing power. But again, with higher inflation, this can be a big issue, right? So we think about exactly that, just the store of value. Things like precious metals, paintings, so gold, silver, these things tend to hold their value a little bit more than the green dollar note. The $50 note wouldn't hold its value the same way, especially after we left the gold standard. So I play this game with my students sometimes. I try to get them to find someone in the classroom that has something that you want and they have something that and also you've got something that they want. Now maybe you got to move around the class until you find that person as a barter. And initially you had to work, right, to get this money, give up labor. That's all it is. Understanding that it's just there to help us to make transactions easier, to make exchanges easier. Otherwise we're back in the barter economy, and it's just like, again, like the dating market. It takes a long time to meet the right person, right? Same thing here. You got to make it a long time before you find two people willing to trade like that. So more than just learning the basics of what money is, you should really try to learn about, if you want to attract it, you really want to try to respect it. Now, this is a little different than the emotional side, right? We're not saying becoming emotional. We're saying respect it, right? So don't get emotional, but respect it. Okay, so don't lose it, but don't be too emotional. So how do you respect it? Well, the first thing is to try to get rid of or disabuse yourself of some of those negative associations you may have picked up along the way. They could be religious or otherwise. Again, this is not a religious or political YouTube. It's just looking at where did you get these ideas from. So Dave Ramsey, in particular, in his book, The Legacy Journey, talks about this. There's this idea that money is the root of all evil. Well, if you read the quote, it's the love of money is the root of evil, right? Becoming more emotional towards it, right? Because people will do crazy things for money. So it's really what people do with money. I mean, this $1 bill, again, at the end of the day, it's a piece of paper. It's just a piece of paper, right? And it holds some value in the exchange system, right? But this is, maybe you can use this to fan your face. Maybe you can use it to start a fire if you light it, right? But it's really just in terms of the value, you can transact this rather than having to, maybe this is like a few minutes of work, right? Or maybe 10 minutes of work, 20 minutes of work, whatever it is. This is just a little bit of work frozen in time, and then you can exchange this for a little part of something you're trying to buy. This idea of the money of all evil and all this is really coming back to, for instance, in the Christian religion, there's a book that St. Paul's letter to the Colossians talks about the ascetic heresy. So this was sort of like, well, I'm poorer than you. Well, I was even poorer than you. Well, I'm poorer than that person. It's a race to the bottom, right? This idea of puffed up Christians. It was a heresy at the time. It was extreme self-denial. And as a fellow Irishman said about moderation, right? Moderation in all things. So we think about, there was a race towards the top before, so trying to people showing off like the keeping up with the Joneses, right? But the other side of the coin was, well, I was so poor, especially in my home country of Ireland, like I was so poor, we only had a one-room house. Oh, you had a room. We didn't even have like a ceiling over our head. It was actually cracked, like the water came through. Oh, you had some kind of a ceiling. We didn't, and you had a floor. We didn't even have a floor. Like it gets a race towards the bottom, right? And it's not, again, St. Paul said this is just puffed up Christians trying to show off how poor they were. So this is the same thing about that. And, even John Maynard Keynes in economics, to kind of come back into economics for a second. So this is the idea that, again, you may have a negative association towards it. So the best thing to do is try to get rid of those negative associations, because it's not good. It's like if you have a negative association of the opposite sex, something like that, right? It's not going to be too good, right? So same thing here with money. Don't be emotional, but respect it. Like, understand this is all it is, just a medium of exchange, but it's also just to respect that idea that it's just like a piece of paper, right? You don't get emotional about a piece of paper. It's useful. You know what? You can write stuff down. It can be very helpful. You don't love a piece of paper. So think about money like that in a sense, right? And even John Maynard Keynes, the modern progenitor or father of modern macroeconomics, said, practical men who believe themselves to be quite exempt from any intellectual influences are usually the slaves of some defunct economist. Madmen who hear voices in the air are distilling their frenzy from some academic scribbler of a few years back. So, apart from valuing money intellectually, you want to make money work for you rather than you work for money. So, the first thing you could think about doing is try to avoid being a spendthrift. Again, make it work. It's initially hard to earn, so make it equally hard to spend. I know it's positive to have a good attitude towards earning. So yes, it can be easy down the line, but at least in terms of spending, if you have a problem with spending, this could be for you to have that attitude that, look, it's hard to earn, so I'm going to make it hard to spend. So just don't be frivolous. Ask yourself why this and why that when you're spending, if this is an issue for you. So you could think about maybe every time you're purchasing something, maybe have a rule like you're going to sleep on it. And tomorrow, make the decision. Maybe tomorrow comes and you decide, you know what, I didn't really need to buy that in the first place. That can really help quite a lot. Another thing to do is, this is something that helped me personally. What I used to do was I would sleep on it, but also another thing I would do is I would spend in cash. Rather than putting it onto a debit or a credit card, I would buy things in cash when I first started. This is before the points, right? So hear me out in the points system. That's great. The credit card points is great, but I would spend things on cash. There's a statistic out there that says that people spending things with a credit card tend to spend about 83% more than they spend on cash. One study suggests that the average cash transaction was only $22. But the average credit card transaction was $112. So we tend to spend more because a lot of the time, look, if we had to spend in cash, I have to give you the cash. I give something to you. Now imagine that you gave the credit card or debit card every time you actually had to purchase something. You would have to give it away. You're not getting your card back. You'd feel the loss. You'd feel the pain because you're like, oh, now I got to get another plastic card. Well, this is part of the actual psychology of when the cards were first introduced by the financial system. They knew that this is actually going to work. This is human psychology. People will spend more when they don't feel that they're giving anything up, because you're just tapping a card and you get to keep that card. You put the card back in your wallet or your purse, right? So you spend more when you're not giving something up. It's a lot harder to spend in cash. You feel the pain more when you're spending on cash. You've only got a finite amount that you can see in your wallet. It could be coins, notes, you name it. So when you're buying food, even if it's only $12, right? You're like, oh, it's $12.05. I only have $12. Where's my 5 cents? Card, don't worry, you just pay it in the card. So you're more loose. So that's one issue. If you have a spending problem, sleep on it for one night and also consider spending with cash. Worst case scenario, debit card. Now, I know that points matter, the credit cards, but this is for people who've got serious issues with spendthrift. And it's good to start off this way. Just at the beginning, it's like not working on your legs at the gym. Start off the right way. Another thing you can do to make money work for you rather than you working for money is to move from the labor-owning working class to the capitalist class by taking your labor income and making it earn a return. This could be with interest or dividends or profit. So it could be that you're putting money in a savings account, like a high yield online savings account. You can look at interest rates on bankrate.com. For instance, it could be that you're putting money into bonds that are giving you, let's say, certain kinds of interest dividends, or stocks that are giving you dividends, returns, or profit. It could be that you're putting it into a company that you're purchasing, or your own company that you're reinvesting into, or it could be that you're putting it into real estate, right? But you're trying to think about how the money that you've earned, right, by working for it, now make that money work for you, right? It could be that you only have a few dollars and you put it like in a Robinhood app or some other app, again, not advertising that here, but anything you want to think about, you're trying to make the money work for you rather than you work for it. How could that money work for you? It could be your retirement account, it could be a Roth IRA. Everybody, whether you have a job or not, can open up a Roth IRA. If your income is too high, there are ways of getting around that with a backdoor Roth IRA. Again, you don't have to have that much money to start an Roth IRA. A few dollars should typically do. So moving beyond trying to make money work for you, and really related to that would be tracking, right? So in behavioral economics, show that people respond to dopamine, much like computer games, right? Leveling up your character, or social media apps. So you could even think about language apps like Duolingo, the ta-da, right? The beep when you're actually getting somewhere. The beep when you're leveling up, or you're got this new level of language proficiency. And it's usually very, very quick, right? You don't have to work that long to get to the next level, right? Little rewards, things like that. So there's beeps, there's buttons like Candy Crush Saga. Again, I'm not a big computer game player, but you have these different levels, you have these different rewards, and humans respond to dopamine. They keep clicking on Instagram, whatever the social media app is. So think about tracking, right? Like money tracking apps, a little bit like playing computer games. Some of these apps could be Empower, Honeydew, Mint, Every Dollar, Rocket Money. Now, I personally use Empower. I've also dabbled in Mint. But, look, it's like a ship with no destination, or like you need to track your progress in weight loss, right? If you're trying to lose weight, or if you're trying to gain weight, bulk up, same thing. You use a weighing scale. Maybe you're taking body measurements like the size of your biceps in weight training, or you're jotting down your lifts, powerlifting, or running, like your times for the marathon or the mile, or swimming or cycling times. What gets measured gets mastered. So tracking your money is one of the biggest tips to really help you get good with money. And related to this, you can think about goals. So what are your financial goals? Jot them down. Only takes a second. Maybe you want to put them in the comments in this video. Right? What are your financial goals? That's fun, right? Like, what money is needed to achieve them? To think about, like, maybe it's a vacation, maybe it's early retirement, maybe it's a car, maybe it's more security, maybe you want to leave the job that you're in, right? What is the kind of money that's needed to achieve them? Again, it could just be something very small, like at the beginning, you want to go on holidays, how much is for that? Or go to the cinema, or afford a better car, or a nice dress, or a suit. Or it could be something bigger, maybe not just consumption, but you're moving towards production, being a producer, and it's really bigger items. So just think about, what do you want? What would make you happy? Now, you could meditate about this. This can be very, very helpful. But this is your motivation 101. Now, it could be that you're listening, you're going and you're listening to great music, and maybe that's something I'll do in this channel later on. I'll provide some of the things I listen to, or create something similar to what I listen to. And it's a little bit like neuro-linguistic programming, right? So if you look at yourself in a mirror and you repeat aphorisms, like you look at yourself and you say, hey, I know I can attract money. I know I can do this. It's amazing when you do this thing. Of course, not just doing that will be the only thing that helps you. You need to go a lot further than that. But it's amazing how you can, if you've got negative attitudes, they're really going to get in your way. And it's very important that you have these positive attitudes. This is a big part of it. It's really one of the easiest things you can do, but it can really change your life. It changed my life when it came to being, let's say, good socially, or good as an academic professor, or good in a lot of different areas. I had to retrain negative, limiting mindsets out of me through NLP. So think about positive aphorisms, things you can say to yourself, and meditate a lot. I used to meditate when I used to go to the gym, when I used to go to the pool, and just think about, these are not expensive pools. This is just, and I used to try to think about what would my goals be years ago when I was starting out on the road, right? And thinking about, okay, by this period, this is what I'm going to do, this is what I'm going to do. And I have to figure out a lot of things in the pool, think a lot of things in the gym, figure out a lot of things when I'm driving, etc. Use the time, especially when you're driving, unless you've got an autonomous vehicle and you can actually start working on stuff. Try to use that time productively. It could be on a bus, on a train, you're walking, if you're cycling to school, etc. Just think, meditate. Right, it really helps. Like, you clear up the mind, it will really help you get on very well. And if you like this money mindset psychology video, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel. It helps the algorithm and it would mean the world to me. So thank you so much.